You've got 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds to convince your audience to listen to you. They have seen a lot, and I mean a lot, of crappy financial presentations. So you need to stand out. You need to make an impact. And the best way to do that is data storytelling. Data storytelling is not just about presenting numbers and facts. It's about crafting a compelling narrative that captures attention. It's about turning boring data into a captivating story that people will remember long after your presentation is over. But before you dive headfirst into creating this data-driven masterpiece, there are 5 commandments of data storytelling that you must follow. I'm Mike, and for over a decade, I've worked in finance in companies from the Fortune 100 to startups, and I've given more than 500 executive presentations. I want to share with you what I've learned through these presentations so you can avoid the mistakes that I made. I remember the first time that I gave a financial presentation. I walked in with a profit and loss income statement that I was just so proud of, and I knew why every single line on that P&L changed. I wanted to take my audience through from top to bottom and tell them every single thing I knew about the P&L. And you know what? Within about a minute, no one in that room was paying attention, and I had to completely recalibrate my strategy. From then on, I never once walked in with a wall of numbers and instead thought, how can I best turn this into a story that people will understand? Look, data can be dry, confusing, and downright boring if not presented right, especially to a non-financial audience. So if you have ever felt like your insights are getting lost in translation or like you're speaking a different language, well, don't worry, because I've got your back. By the end of this video, you'll have the 5 essential commandments to turn your data into a compelling story that captivates, informs, and drives action. Trust me, your spreadsheets will never look the same again. And make sure to stick around to the end because I will share a special resource that will take your data storytelling skills to the next level. You won't want to miss it. And while you're watching, make sure to scroll down to the description and click that link to join my weekly newsletter, Finance Unfiltered. If you do, I'll send you my free guide to 25 ways to use AI in finance and accounting, one of the many ways of which is to tell better data stories. And don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button to get my newest videos right in your feed. I post a new video every single Monday. With that, let's get started with the 5 commandments of data storytelling. So the 5 commandments that we're going to walk through one by one. The first one is to know your audience. Nothing more important than that. The second is to craft a clear narrative. The third is to visualize wisely. The fourth is to always keep it simple. And the fifth is to engage emotionally. And of course, at the end, we'll have our bonus topic, and I'm really excited to share that resource with you. So now let's talk about knowing your audience. It's critical to identify who you are talking to because different audiences require different approaches. A room full of financial analysts needs a different presentation style than a group of marketing and sales executives. You also need to tailor your message. What are the pain points of your audience? What keeps them up at night? What do they care about in the business? And make sure your data addresses those directly. And then use relevant examples. Relate your data to something that your audience understands. If they're from supply chain, use supply chain examples and metrics to make your point. So let's think about this from the standpoint of 2 personas. The first is an executive operations audience, and the second is a group of non-finance business partners. What you need to understand for these 2 audiences is they're looking for different things. In the executive audience, they want high-level insights. They want to understand what is happening broadly, and they want you to stay out of the weeds. To tailor this message, they again care about big picture things. They want to understand how they can attack the biggest problems first, and you want to make sure that you come in with very broad insights. For relevant examples, you're talking about things that competitors are doing. You're talking about things happening in different segments of the company that may be good learnings. You're talking really big. Now let's say you're talking to this smaller group of non-finance business partners. First of all, you need to understand that this group has had significantly less exposure to finance. You need to use simple terminology and pull as much of the finance out as possible because it is not their skill set. To tailor the message, you need to get a lot more in the weeds. You need to talk about things that are relevant to their day-to-day job and how they can improve in their job in their department. Talking about competitors is not going to help at this point. And for relevant examples, again, bring it down to their level. Take examples from the world of the department you're in. Get to know their world, get to know their work, and bring them examples that make sense to them. For our second commandment, you need to craft a clear narrative. This is where the storytelling really comes to play. To craft a narrative, we're going to go back to storytelling techniques that have been used throughout history and are still used to this day. First, begin with a hook. Start with an intriguing question or a surprising statistic that can grab attention right off the bat. Then you need to build tension. Introduce the problem you're trying to address and why the audience should care. Again, not just reading off a page of numbers. And bring them a resolution. Show how your data provides a solution and use a logical flow to guide your audience through these findings. I want to show you what this looks like on a slide. So on the left side, you'll see a data-focused narrative. We beat budget by $1 million. Numbers. Gotta love it. Labor hours were flat to budget while revenue is up 10%. Awesome. You just left the audience wondering, what on earth do I do with this? That's great. How much should we have made? How much was this on? You've left them so many questions. So put it into a narrative, starting with the hook. This was our best quarter in 3 years. You've set the stage that this is exciting, this is good news, and this is bigger than it's been before. Then you go on to say, with the tension, that is amazing news, but now we have to do it again. You've given them an interest in listening to you and a reason to listen to you. Then you say that the data shows that we drove higher revenue without adding labor. So, this is the challenge, to help them understand how the revenue came in without adding additional labor. That is the action that they take away, and you can spend the rest of the presentation diving into that versus just throwing out the numbers. Now that we've laid out a narrative framework, let's talk about visualizing wisely, because almost no financial presentation is complete without those charts and graphs that we all know and love. But it's important, first of all, to choose the right chart. Bar charts for comparisons, line charts for trends, pie charts for parts of a whole. Each type of data visualization serves a specific purpose. Next, you need to keep it clean. Overloaded slides can kill your message. You have to use white space and avoid clutter to keep it clean and to help your audience understand the key points, which leads us to highlighting the key points. Use color and size to draw attention to the most important parts of your data. Everybody loves a good red box to say, look here, this is what's most important. Call people's attention to what you most want them to see. Visuals work best with an example, and you know I love a good visual. So I want to show you an example of before and after of what not to do and how to transform it using the commandments of data storytelling. So what you see on screen is a profit and loss or income statement from Amazon. It is how I did my first presentation that I talked about. I put up my P&L. I was so proud of my numbers. Here it is. It is hard to read. No one wants to look at all of these numbers. To add to it, make it even better, I've got this really thick commentary on the side. NPS was up 10% versus prior year, while NSS was up 12%. So let's transform this into something understandable. You'll see on the next slide, I've transformed this. At the top, there is one set of words with what I want the audience to take away. Expense growth is outpacing revenue growth. That's bad. We need to do something about it. And then for the chart, I focus on what matters most. Instead of putting every single number on the page, the story I need to get across is that our expenses have started growing faster than revenue and we need to do something. So instead of putting every number on the page, I've simplified it to revenue and expense over time and added the fact that we didn't used to grow expenses faster. We are now, so we can help them understand what's happening. This is where visuals become so important because I have taken that mess of data and turned it into a very concise, very clear story that gets the point across better than that wall of numbers ever could have. From there, we go to commandment number 4, which is to keep it simple. You want to avoid jargon. If you have to use technical terms, make sure you're speaking to an audience that understands them, or make sure you explain them incredibly clearly so that anyone could understand. Second, use analogies. Comparing your data to something familiar, either from the person's role you're speaking to or from just the world in general, can make complex ideas easier to understand. And then you want to do one single idea per slide. If I wanted to tell you the thing that has been most impactful in my career as my presentations went to more senior audiences, it's this. It's not cramming multiple points onto one slide. It's telling one message on every single slide. It helps me not only tell the story better, but also it encourages me to put less on the page because I only have one thing I really want to get across. With that, we're going to look at the same example from before. We have the Amazon wall of numbers on the side, and then on the right, we're doing everything wrong. Talk about jargon. What is NPS? What is NSS? What is IBT? These are things that not everyone in the audience will know. There are certainly no analogies being used because it's just pure data. And there are so many ideas on this page. We're talking about revenue, we're talking about costs, we're talking about why this might be happening, and there's just a muddled mess. So we go to our revised slide. Expense growth is outpacing revenue growth. Simple words that everyone will understand. To fix this, focus on managing your fixed costs, especially technology and content, and this will help you return to profitability. One single idea that revenue is outpacing expense. This is why expense is higher, and we need to fix it. So simple, so clear, and anyone could pick up this deck and understand it. Commandment number 5. Engage emotionally. This is the commandment that will leave a lasting impression as your audience leaves the room. This is what truly takes you to rock star status and will turn heads and impress everyone around you. First, humanize the data. Use stories or case studies that illustrate the real-world impact of your data. I am a huge fan of case studies and will often craft my entire presentation around them. Second, use visual metaphors. Images can convey emotions and concepts more effectively than numbers alone. It took me a long time in my career to see financial presentations that actually used pictures, but I started spending a lot more time around marketing as I supported that department, and I began to learn so much about how to convey messages that I pulled images into my decks, and everyone loved them, even the finance people. And lastly, interactive elements go really far when presenting to a live audience. It's a great opportunity to pop in polls, questions, or especially live demos of tools or live walkthroughs of some of the numbers. This really helps keep your audience engaged and highly invested in your presentation. And now the moment that we've all been waiting for, I am really excited to share with you the bonus, which is my 5 storytelling frameworks. I've taken these frameworks from a combination of strategies that I've seen marketers use effectively to sell. I've also taken this from classic storytelling frameworks, and I've pulled them together. Now, before I go through this, scroll down to the description, and right under where you can join my newsletter, there's a link that will take you to a download for my storytelling frameworks cheat sheet. This will allow you to take these with you and walk you through step by step how to apply these to your presentations. I want to make sure you don't miss this fantastic resource that's helped me so much in my career. Now, here are the 5 storytelling frameworks. The first is the hero's journey. This doesn't need a lot of explanation because you've seen it so many times. This is Indiana Jones. This is Star Wars. This is the majority of Greek mythology. This is as old and classic as it gets to convey stories. From the world of marketing, we have problem, solution, and benefit. Identify people's pain points, provide them clear solutions, and highlight the outcomes that are possible. Also from the world of marketing, before, after, bridge. Set up context for the initial state. Show how you can transform things through numbers and provide actionable steps as they leave. The data-driven narrative, going back to the world of storytelling. Have an engaging info, present insightful data with practical recommendations. This works very well for audiences that want short, snappy presentations with less of the fluff, but still maintaining that storytelling cadence that's easy to follow. And lastly, my personal favorite, as I mentioned before, it's the case study approach. You provide a detailed background on the problem. You show the challenge, the solution, and the results, and then you take people through broader lessons. All of this is, again, detailed very clearly in my free download, so you can just take it with you and have this on your desk at all times. If you take away just one thing from this presentation, remember that great data storytelling is about more than just numbers. Yes, even for finance and accounting presentations. It's about making connections with your audience, sparking curiosity in the data so they want to listen more, and most importantly for your career, driving meaningful actions, driving people to take action with your data. So with that, if you found this video helpful, make sure to smash that subscribe button and share this with your finance squad. And don't forget to check out the link in the description for that special resource I promised on data storytelling. Let's revolutionize how we tell data stories one spreadsheet at a time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Remember, we post a new video every Monday. Until then, this is Mike signing off from F9 Finance. Cheers.